Hi, I'm Steve Good with the Scroll Saw Workshop. Out in the shop tonight to answer a question that I receive pretty often in my email over at the blog, and that's www.scrollsawworkshop.blogspot.com. And that is when you design and cut a project that needs to be hung on the wall, what's the easiest way to do that? So I don't know that there is an easiest way, but this is one method that doesn't require any additional hardware, and it's fairly simple to do, and it's pretty secure also. So with that, I'm going to show you the Keyhole Router Bit. Now what the Keyhole Router Bit does is it has two cutting surfaces. It has a larger head on it that is part of a plunge cut, and then below that head there's a blade that will make cut sideways into the wood. So what that allows you to do is to make a plunge cut into the wood, then move the wood forward or the router bit forward and make a slot. And what you get is a keyhole cut that's just like this. And that keyhole allows you to put the screw and then slide the screw up on the project and hold the project secure to the wall. So it's a very handy bit to have. It is easiest if you have a router table to do this, and I'll show you on the router table how I do it. But I have done it with just a plunge router before, or even a fixed base router. You just have to be a little careful. The hardest part is keeping this side cut straight when you go to move it. So it might be best to build a jig to make it a little easier. So with that, I'm going to take you over to the router table and show you how to make a keyhole cut in a piece of wood. One more tip here to keep in mind is that before you begin your keyhole cut, you want to make sure that you know what the center of balance is of your project, so the project will hang straight on the wall. And that's not necessarily the same as the center of the project. So pinch the project with your fingers until you find the center of balance and mark that as the position of the keyhole cut. I've got the keyhole bit installed in my router. I've got the blank of wood that we're going to do the project on. In this case, it's a 1/2 inch thick piece of wood. The keyhole bits do come in different sizes. In this case, I'm using a fairly small size because of the fact that I'm using just a 1/2 inch thick piece of wood. Now, to set the height of this, we want the plunge part of this keyhole saw to plunge in about 1/8 to maybe a little bit more than 1/8 from the top of the piece of wood. So I can just go ahead and bring the router bit up, push the block of wood up to it, and I want to raise that router bit up and down until I'm about 1/8 of an inch from the top. Then I can go ahead and lock it down, and you can see that the plunge part of this bit is going to cut to that depth, and then the side cutting part of the bit is going to be what's going to cut the recess as we move the wood forward. And the way we'll do that is we'll bring the wood up over the bit while it's running. We'll do a plunge cut where we'll drop this wood down until it lays flat on the table, and then we'll do our recess cut by moving the wood forward into the bit. So with that, I'll go ahead and start the router table up and I'll show you the cut. Now that we've got our height set, we can go ahead and start the router table, move the block over, make our plunge cut, pull the block to us to make the slot cut. We want to make sure that the router bit comes to a complete stop before we move this. Once you're sure the router bit's stopped, go ahead and move the piece back towards the plunge cut, and then you can lift it off. And there's our perfect keyhole slot. And I'll zoom in here just a little bit and show you how the screw fits in it. Okay, I've got the screw, which would obviously be installed into the wall. Then you'll take the project, you'll stick the recess or the plunge cut part of the bit over the screw, and then as we pull the piece down, you can see that the screw sits up into the recess and holds your project to the wall nice and snug. So the keyhole bit, very handy bit to have for your router. You can do it with a regular plunge router by hand, but it's best if you build a jig to hold the piece of wood and then also allow you to move the wood through the cutter part of the bit without getting crooked. So that's the keyhole bit. I'm Steve Good. Thanks for being here with me at the Scroll Saw Workshop, and we'll see you next time.